This demo will look at WilloWare's MOGenerator for Microsoft Dynamics GP. MOGenerator has two broad pieces of functionality. There are the core utilities and the MO receipt integration utility. These two utilities can be licensed separately, and there's also a discounted suite license that includes everything in the MOGenerator suite. Core utilities contains several manufacturing related utilities for GP manufacturing. There's the Create MOs utility. With this utility you can import a spreadsheet or integrate into a SQL staging table a list of item numbers and quantity to produce. There are some other options that you can provide in either the file or the SQL table, but the general functionality of this is that you can tell the software which item you want to make and the quantity you want to make and the date on which you want to make it, and it will create a manufacturing order, build a pick list, and schedule the MO. The Create child-MOs utility is similar in functionality, but with this utility you can either provide a list of MOs in a Excel spreadsheet or again through a SQL staging table, and it will take those MOs, explode the bill of materials, find any make to stock subassemblies, create a manufacturing order for those child subassemblies, and then schedule those accordingly so that the child MO is due before it's needed by the parent MO. It also creates the MO numbers based on the parent MO so that they're easily identified as all linked to each other. The MO Scheduler utility will schedule or reschedule manufacturing orders. Again, you provide a list of manufacturing orders through a spreadsheet or through the SQL staging table, and you can provide a new start or due date for that manufacturing order. The MO Scheduler then will pick those up and reschedule the manufacturing order. So this utility can be used to perform scheduling outside of GP. You might export a list of manufacturing orders out to Excel, do some manual rescheduling in Excel, and then bring that back into GP and reschedule all those manufacturing orders inside GP. There is also an option in the MOGenerator setup that allows you to control whether or not the utility reschedules child manufacturing orders. So in the case where you have generated child MOs for the parent MO, if you reschedule the parent, it will then go through and reschedule all of the children at the same time. And then lastly, in the core utilities, there's a MOP-SOP link so that if you create a manufacturing order from a sales transaction, when that parent manufacturing order is generated, MOGenerator will jump in, explode the bill of materials for that MO, and create all of the child subassembly manufacturing orders linked to that parent MO. MO receipt integration basically does what it says. You can integrate into GP manufacturing receipts. There's two general ways in which this can be done. You can start with a existing manufacturing order in GP and then feed in receipts against that MO. So for example, you might create a manufacturing order for 100 units of 100 XLG. Maybe you've got a shop floor data collection system, and as each unit is produced, or maybe each pallet is produced, your external system would feed a record back into the receipt integration staging table that says here's the quantity produced and the serial numbers that were produced. The receipt integration then will post a receipt against that MO in GP and decrement the remaining quantity on that MO. Another way that you can use MO receipt integration is to simply feed in production. And as each unit is produced or each batch is produced, the receipt integration utility will create an MO and post a receipt for it all in one step. So you might use this if you have a external manufacturing system. Everything is tracked in that, but you want GP to reflect the material usage, the material consumption for the raw materials and the finished goods production, and you also want the costing to be calculated inside of GP. You could use the second type of integration where you're just telling it how many are made, and then it automatically creates the MO, backflushes the materials, and posts the finished goods into stock. So we're going to take a look at all of these different pieces of MOGenerator in this demo. For all of the demos of the core utilities, we're going to be using a Excel spreadsheet import. So this is the layout that is required of that spreadsheet. Regardless of whether or not you're doing the create MO utility, the create child-MO utility, or the scheduler utility, they will all use the same spreadsheet layout. You might just use different columns in the spreadsheet. So for the create MO spreadsheet, there are a few required columns. You need to provide the item number, the quantity, and the due date. Everything else is optional, but you can also provide a scheduling preference, a routing, you can specify a specific BOM, and you can also provide an MO description. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the create MOs utility, and here's a very simple spreadsheet with just the bare minimum of information needed. We've got the item number, quantity, this will be the due date, and lastly the MO description is over here. Okay, so let's take a look at MOGenerator inside GP. You get to it by going to Transactions, Manufacturing, MOGenerator. The window's divided into three sections. The top part of the window provides some settings and other options that affect both the import utilities and the manual entry utility. So the MO status, you can set how what the MO status will be when it creates manufacturing orders. In this case, we're going to create our MOs in a status of released. This is handy if you have GP manufacturing set up to allocate inventory when it's released. So you can bring the MO in, create it, and then MOGenerator will change its status to released and allocate inventory. You can specify which scheduling preference it should use. This can be useful if you need to create manufacturing orders for different manufacturing sites. The scheduling preference can provide a default draw from an issue to site. So by selecting a different scheduling preference, you can control where manufacturing will pull inventory from for the manufacturing order. This Backflush Labor setting allows you to override, if you want, some of the settings on the routing when the manufacturing order is created. So we've got it set here to routing default, which means it's just going to use whatever is on the routing. Alternatively, you can force everything on the routing to not backflush, or you can force all of the sequence on the routing to be backflushed. If you have WilloWare's manufacturing power pack installed and you are licensed for MO document types, MOGenerator integrates into MO document types, and you can select a specific MO document numbering sequence for when you create manufacturing orders. You can provide a default MO description. If you recall from the spreadsheet that we just looked at, our spreadsheet does contain MO descriptions. So if your integration contains an MO description, MOGenerator will use that. If no MO description is provided, it will use what is entered into this MO description field. So this really serves as a default. Create child-MOs is marked. This is the feature that will explode the bill of materials and create MOs for all of the children. Use component lead time offset. This affects the scheduling of the child-MO. So if it's considering the component lead time offset, it will schedule the MO further, well, either further back in time or move it forward a little bit depending on whether or not your offset is positive or negative. If you don't have this option marked, it will schedule the child MO to be due on the day the parent MO starts. There is an option in MOGenerator to provide a list of excluded items. This affects the create child MO functionality, so that as it explodes the bill of materials and it's trying to figure out which child items to manufacture, if an item is on the excluded list, it'll skip it. These last couple of items pertain to the MO receipt integration, and we'll look at that a little bit later. The import section of MOGenerator has a couple more options that we need to take a look at. You can have the import run once, so this is a manual mode where you're sitting at the computer clicking the import button, or it can run continuously. When you have an external system that's integrating into GP and you want MOGenerator to pick those up automatically and process them, you'd set it to run continuously. For example, you might have an external production planning system that creates a list of MOs. You want to feed those into GP and have GP automatically create and schedule those manufacturing orders. So you'd set MOGenerator to run continuously. You'd have to dedicate a GP client to running the processor. So that GP client is going to sit there full time running the processor. As it's set up here, every minute it will go back out and check that staging table. If there's new records in it, it'll import those, and in this case create manufacturing orders. We're going to run a manual integration using the Excel spreadsheet that we looked at earlier. And here we have that spreadsheet selected. Now before we run the import, let's take a second to review what we expect to happen. Then we'll run the import and take a look at what MOGenerator did in GP. So the first thing is we expect it to create manufacturing orders. We had those two MOs in the spreadsheet. And since we have create child MOs marked, we expect it to create child manufacturing orders based on the bill of materials. So for 100 XLG, we should get a manufacturing order for the top level item, get a manufacturing order for the base assembly. We should also get a manufacturing order for circuit board assembly and the green hand assembly. We're all ready to go here, so we'll click import. It asks us to confirm that we're ready, and then we'll see down on the bottom of the window here that it displays some progress as it's working on this. And you can see that it's creating child subassemblies. Those dash numbers are the child manufacturing orders. And when it gets finished here, we'll jump over into GP manufacturing and take a look at those manufacturing orders. MOGenerator completed its task of creating manufacturing orders. So we jumped over into the manufacturing order entry window. And you can see that it created our MO for 100 XLG, created another MO for chair, and then it also created the child subassembly manufacturing orders. And you can see that these are numbered with a dash and then an incrementing number for each subassembly. And this gives you a good visual indicator of which manufacturing orders are connected to each other. Another thing that it does when it creates the child manufacturing orders is it puts the parent MO into the MO description field. So since BA100G is the first level child, its parent is 100 XLG, which is on MO 26. If we go into CBA 100, which is a child inside of BA 100G, you can see that the MO description is referring back to the -001 MO, which is the BA 100G manufacturing order. Note also the dates on the manufacturing orders. So the top level manufacturing order due date was 5/5, so it backward scheduled to 4/28. The first level down, we were using the component offset, so there's a pretty good offset on BA 100G, and that was moved back all the way back to 3/11. Since we've been talking so much about generating the child MOs, let's pop over into sales transaction entry and we'll take a quick look at the integration between MOGenerator and GP Manufacturing's MOP-SOP functionality. So we've got a back order here with 100 XLG on it. Manufacturing sales item detail window pops open. Now what will happen when we generate this manufacturing order, MOGenerator will jump in and ask us if we want to create the child manufacturing orders linked to that parent MO. So this dialog box here is telling us that there are some warnings. We're just going to skip that. And we'll skip this. This dialog here is coming from MOGenerator. This one is asking us if we want to generate the child subassemblies. So we'll say yes, and then you'll see a progress window pop up as GP Manufacturing creates the parent MO, and then MOGenerator jumps in and creates the children. Okay, that probably flashed pretty quickly. I'm not sure you were able to see that. But if we come back over here into GP Manufacturing, you can see we've got a new manufacturing order. This is linked to the back order that we just created, and it's got the subassembly manufacturing orders. All of the MOGenerator utilities are listed here. We just ran through the Create MOs utility. As you see, there's an option for running it with an Excel spreadsheet. You can also run it through a table integration. Since we have the Create Child MOs option checked, the Create MO utility also created child MOs at the same time. You can run just the Create Child MOs utility separately. So you might have a process that's creating manufacturing orders in GP, but then you need to create the child manufacturing orders for that. For example, maybe you have a configurator module for GP. It runs outside of GP, builds the configuration, sticks a manufacturing order into GP for the top level parent. You could have that integration also insert a record into our staging table. MOGenerator would pick that up and then run through that BOM and create any child manufacturing orders that you need to make the parent. So we won't look at the Create Child MOs utility separately because we've kind of already covered that. The next thing we'll take a look at is the MLS Scheduler utility. Now there are a couple different scenarios where you might use this. There are some configurator products, in particular Explogix, which, at least at the time that this demo is being created, Explogix creates a MO in GP, but what it's doing is creating a record in the work order master table. It's not scheduling the manufacturing order. So you need to then go in, manually touch every manufacturing order, and click the schedule button. You could use our MO Scheduler utility with Explogix so that when those MOs are created by Explogix, MOGenerator picks those up and automatically schedules them, so you don't need manual user intervention. Another scenario, which is something I mentioned earlier, is that you could use the scheduler utility for scheduling manufacturing orders outside of GP. You might export them out from SmartList, reschedule in Excel, and then bring them back in with the scheduler and reschedule the manufacturing orders. We'll be using a Excel integration again to do the MO scheduler. This uses the same Excel layout as the MOGenerator utility, and in this case what we need to provide is the manufacturing order number. The scheduler column here shows what is required. So in this case, really all we need to do is provide the MO number. The reason that the due date is optional goes back to the Explogix functionality, or the ability just to sort of finish creating a manufacturing order. The scheduler would work with any integration you have that's essentially just sticking a record into the work order master. The MO scheduler utility will then pick that up, build a pick list, and schedule the manufacturing order. The date is optional because you can provide a different date, and if you do that, it'll also change the date on the manufacturing order and then reschedule the manufacturing order. So here's our integration spreadsheet. We're going to provide it with the manufacturing order. This is the one we created for 100 XLG, and the due date on it was May something, and we're going to move it out to August. If you're going to use the scheduler functionality, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. GP manufacturing won't let you reschedule a manufacturing order that has been released. So if you have an external process that's creating manufacturing orders, it should create those in an open status. And when you're using the scheduler, you also want to make sure that the create child-MOs box is not marked, because the way that child-MO process works is it looks for the MO scheduling process, and when that happens, it jumps in and goes through the bill of material and creates those new manufacturing orders. So if you have this marked when you reschedule, you'll create another set of child manufacturing orders. So to run MO Scheduler, we've got this box unmarked. We're going to create a set of manufacturing orders to use for the scheduler demo by using the manual entry window. Manual entry window is a manual method for running the create MOs utility. Works in exactly the same fashion. You give it the manufacturing order, you can tell it which bill of materials to use, specify the quantity and the end date. If you have create child MOs marked, it will also use that process and create all the child subassembly manufacturing orders, and in this case we're going to create them all in an open status. You can see the progress as it's moving through the manufacturing orders down here in the bottom of the window. And here's our set of manufacturing orders. The current due date for the top level is 6/1/2017. And we're going to put MO29 in our MO Scheduler spreadsheet, and we'll reschedule this to a future date and come back in and take a look at what happened with the MO and the child, the subassembly manufacturing orders. This is our import spreadsheet that we're going to use for rescheduling the manufacturing order. You see the only information that we need to provide is the manufacturing order and the new due date. We've got MOGenerator ready to run now for doing our MO Scheduler. We have our MO Scheduler spreadsheet selected. Create child MOs is unmarked. We'll click import. It reads the spreadsheet, and the bottom of the window shows progress as it's rescheduling those manufacturing orders. You can see that The manufacturing order has been rescheduled to 8/1, start date of 7/25, and the children have been rescheduled accordingly. The ability of MOGenerator to reschedule child MOs also works when rescheduling a single manufacturing order from the MO entry window. So you see we've provided a new due date here, and when I click the Schedule MO button, you'll see a progress window as it reschedules those child manufacturing orders. So the new start date is now 8/25, and the children have been moved out to 8/25. Next, we're going to look at the MO receipt functionality in the MOGenerator module. Using the MO receipt integration requires performing a SQL table integration. So there are several different tables that you can use. At a minimum, you have the MO header table. So at a minimum, you can have MO receipt integration, create a MO receipt against an existing manufacturing order, or create a new manufacturing order on the fly and post a receipt against that manufacturing order. Our example here is going to look at both of these. MO27 is something that we created earlier using MOGenerator. And this MO here is a brand new manufacturing order, doesn't exist in GP, and we'll have MOGenerator create it for us and post a receipt. Now there are several other columns in this table. If you were doing a receipt with serial and lot numbers, you can provide a serial or lot number. The lot attributes can also be provided, and it will create a lot attribute record. And then you can also tell it whether or not you want to consume a specific list of materials and use specific machine time and labor time. What this means is that normally what the MO receipt integration will do is, for the bill of materials, it's going to backflush the pick list that was created when that manufacturing order was created. So if you're doing a receipt against an existing MO in GP and you don't import bill of materials, it's just going to backflush the pick list. And if you don't provide specific labor time and machine time, it's just going to backflush the routing. You can, however, tell it to do actual material consumption and actual labor. The MO pick table is used to tell the MO receipt integration which materials to consume. So if you don't want to backflush the pick list, you then can provide everything that the manufacturing order should consume. You might use this if you have serial or lot numbered components and you don't want to auto select, you want to provide specific components to select. The same goes for actual labor and actual machine time. Normally the receipt integration is just going to backflush whatever is on the routing. But if you're recording actual labor and actual machine and you want to use that instead, you can provide that information through the MO routing table. It's important to note here that this is a either or type thing. You either backflush the pick list or you provide the entire list of components to consume. And likewise with the routing, you either backflush the routing that's in GP or you provide all of the labor and machine time that needs to be consumed. Lastly, the MO header options table provides the ability to specify a different routing to be used, because by default it's going to use the primary routing, and this is the case where you aren't receiving against a existing manufacturing order. If you have MO receipt integration creating a manufacturing order and posting receipt, as part of that process you can tell it which routing to use. You can also tell it to use a specific bill of materials, a different scheduling preference. You might do this to provide different draw from and post to sites, and you can also provide a material receipts bin. So one last look at the MO header table. We're going to do a receipt against an existing manufacturing order. This is MO 27, and we're also going to have it create a manufacturing order and post a receipt. Before we begin the integration, there are a couple of options to take a look at in the settings section. Allow receipts on existing MOs does exactly what it says. You would have this unmarked if you have an external system that's feeding final production into GP. In that case, you're just telling GP to create an MO for however many you made. Let's say you made 10 units and you just want to say record production of 10, consume the raw materials. In that case, you are giving GP a manufacturing order number because that's one of the required fields in the integration table, and that should be unique for every receipt that you're feeding into GP. So you'd have this unmarked so that MOGenerator would detect if any duplicates accidentally get fed into the integration table. In this case, we do want to do a receipt on an existing manufacturing order. Use system date. You would mark this if you have MOGenerator running in a unintended mode. It might be running 24 hours a day. It's periodically polling the staging table. If anything's in there, it's creating MO receipts. Since it's running by itself and it could be going 24 hours a day, the use system date option will allow MOGenerator to automatically change the date on the client so that MOs are always being posted with the current date. So we have a couple of MOs in our integration table. Click the import button. The bottom of the window will show progress, and what we will see are the normal posting windows that pop up as manufacturing is posting a receipt. You get one set of inventory posting transactions when it's consuming the raw materials, and then you get a second set of the inventory transaction posting as it's putting the finished goods into inventory. So we saw that series of posting transactions pop up twice. So our 2 manufacturing orders should be finished. So here's the one that we created from scratch. You can see it created the manufacturing order, built the pick list, consumed inventory, posted the finished goods into stock. And then here's our other manufacturing order for the chair, and the same process. It built the pick list, consumed raw materials, posted finished goods. If you'd like to learn more about this product or any of the other WilloWare software, please visit us at willowware.com or send us an email at sales@willowware.com.